And we are live from Virginia International Raceway, the last breakfast at the runoffs for
Yep.
2022.
Day number 3.
Day number 3, brought to you by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. And we have a very special guest. We're going to get right to it this morning. And national champion.
Yeah.
Have you gotten used to that? Have you said it? Did you go to bed last night? I'm a national champion.
I don't know if I actually slept last night, to be
Oh,
honest
my.
with you. I don't know if you get used to that at all, too. And it's going to make a very interesting 14-hour drive home today.
I got you. Stephen Trone with us, yesterday's B-Spec national champion. Did you enjoy serving Crow?
I did,
Last night?
actually. I think that was fantastic. I think it was super fantastic.
We'll get to that in a minute. There's a backstory that we'll tell you about. And it's interesting, although it was a little snarky, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
You come from a racing family.
Absolutely. Generation number 2.
Your father taught me how to run race control. And I will be forever grateful for that. And that's how I got to know you and your wonderful family. And now you've been a flagger, a worker, and now you're a national champion. How's that feel?
It's unbelievable. I mean, SCCA has been our life. I hate to say it, but it's true. It's my bigger family. You know, as you said, it started out with my parents. When my father was way before my age, I was just a little guy. I don't know, a couple years old when he started to go flagging. Created a flagging crew called the Roadrunners out of that Midwest, area. We were Mid-America was the track. I don't think it exists anymore. And I spent the days every day at the track and got to see some cool cars and do things. And then finally, when I got old enough, I went to timing and scoring as a middle schooler, and eventually got on the turns and did some autocross, and eventually bought a car and did 22 years of spec racer and really honed my skills, and then transitioned over to B-Spec, and look where we're at, national champions. It's awesome.
For those who don't know, Bob, Steve's dad, was the CEO of the board of board of directors,
Chairman
chair,
of the board. Yep.
and he was a big voice and force in the club for many years. And I remember when you finished third at Indy, and just a couple of weeks later he passed.
Yeah,
I was like,
that was tough.
It was, but my thought was he was there for that. And he was here yesterday, too.
Oh, he was definitely here yesterday.
Yeah, no question.
I carry something in my wallet, and I think about him all the time, and I know he's proud.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't make any mistakes yesterday is because of him.
Yeah. So yesterday, I mean, a whole week of you guys, you and Rich, were the class of everything. You were pretty much up front all the qualifying sessions. You came in with a plan.
Yeah.
And here's what's interesting. You're not teammates.
Yep.
Okay, so when you come in with a plan at a race, at a national championship race, and the guy in second place sticks with the plan, that's dang near unheard of.
Yeah. I mean, all credit to Rich. The guy's a class act.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I first met him at Summit Point, and, I expect to win when I go to a race. I hate to say it. That's just who I
That's what you're
am.
supposed to do.
I go there to go win, and I went to Summit Point. I hadn't been there in a couple years, and there's this guy named Rich Roman there, and he smoked me the first day. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
who's this guy? And the second day, I finally said, you know what? I'm going to give him a run. I'm going to make sure I stick with him. So I took the lead in the first turn. And from that point on, every single lap, we were side by side, diving in, running, and he was just so clean.
Yeah.
And I respect that,
Yeah.
because there are non-clean drivers. And from that race, and I had a chance, he beat me because I missed a shift. I made a mistake. I missed a shift on the last lap where I knew I was faster in a spot. He knew it too.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I was like, this guy's good. Then I got to see him again at the Glen.
Right.
And very smooth, was very successful. I think he got a first and a second there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was like, you know what? I learned last year at Indy. Last year, I didn't have a partner.
Right.
You've got to have a partner. I watched Dave Doherty and John Phillips
yeah.
just own it. And every time when I was in third there and who I was running with popped out, we lost a second each time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You got to have a partner. So at that point, I had to go through my Rolodex of who I think the drivers are, who I think would be my best partner. And I actually had a few people actually contact me, believe it or not. And I actually told them, hey, I got somebody. And I reached out to Rich. I said, Rich, I think you're going right. Yep, I'm going. What? Hey, listen, you and I are very similar drivers.
Right.
We need to do this. We need to do it right. And we planned our test days that way. We both said, let's do 2 test days. Let's get out there. First session, just go run to get back to running a car again.
Right.
Second session, let's put one of us in front.
Yep.
Third session, let's put one of the other in the front. And then we looked at the times and said, where were we faster?
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
You know, I joked about, who keeps a plan in a national championship race. And then I spent last night with Rich and his fan club,
Yeah.
family fan club.
Yeah. Good guy.
And I understand now. I mean, he's just that kind of guy.
That's who he is. And I've been following him and watching him in the Washington D.C. region for close to 10 years, and everything that you said is how he is every day at the racetrack and every day with everybody he encounters. He really is a good person and a person. I think, and I heard some stories. Obviously going into the event, you have to have the trust that the other party is going to uphold the plan.
Yep.
And he was pretty adamant that it was going to go the way you all had planned it out for a long time.
We knew that if one of us popped out, we'd be in trouble.
Right.
And we said, with that 1 or 2 lap to go, that's when it's take the gloves off and go at it. And he almost got it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. You saw how close that finish was.
78,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said if the 2 cars behind you were a little further back, that he was going to try a little harder.
Get it
at the
running.
end.
Yeah.
He
was still defending Doherty all the way up until the top of the roller coaster.
Yeah, he was faster than me on the last turn.
Yeah.
And I think I made a mistake of watching a bunch of the races beforehand, because a lot of guys were going off that last turn, and I was tentative.
Yeah.
And I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew I was tentative, but that last time I did actually go a little harder, and I could have gone harder than I had to, but I just didn't want to go off.
So when you go into a race like that and you have a plan, in the back of your head, where is there the time when you think, okay, what happens if he decides just to go?
Yeah. I was ready for that too,
Okay.
because I had Oak Tree better than him.
Right.
Every time I came out of there better than him, and he was able to pull up on my draft. So I think that's where I was planning on getting him back.
Right.
Was down the back straight, because I was always fast back. And I knew I'd be able to draft him up and get by him. In fact, that's how I got my fastest lap. Was I made one mistake the whole week coming in the Oak Tree. I got the car a little squirrely, which caused him to be out front for qualifying.
Right.
2 laps later, I used his draft, got around him, and then we went. So I was ready. There were spots that I knew I could be faster.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we had a little drama.
Yeah, it's too bad.
And but you know what? I think in the end it probably is good, because now there's no questions, right?
There's no questions. That's 100%. But I think it's just a bad trend that
Yeah.
maybe you're seeing in the class. I think that there's a lot of guys that don't understand what it takes to get to this level.
Right.
And I think people come out and they just get in a car and they expect to go win, and you can't be like that. I prepped 2 months just on the car for this event.
So for those who might not know what I'm talking about, there were protests on B spec before the race even started. You were protested. David Daugherty was protested, and
Riley's failure.
Riley was protested.
Basically, the top runners in each of the chassis, I guess, with the exception of the Toyota Yaris and the Ford Fiesta, I guess.
Yep.
And everyone came back clean, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Everyone was 100% legal.
So do you hope that maybe this will be the end of that?
I hope, but you go on Facebook and you can see the stuff. It doesn't look like it. It's not. It's really unfortunate. It challenges your integrity. I was insulted, to be honest with you, and some of those I had considered friends before, but I hate to say it, they're no longer my friend.
Yeah.
If you knew me, those that know me and have raced with me, I think they'd know I'd never do anything like that, and probably some of the other guys wouldn't either. Get to know your drivers. That's what I got to say. Go meet the people.
Right.
It was just done improperly and poorly in my mind.
So you do all the work on your cars yourself,
Pretty much, most of it.
and it's amateur racing.
Yep.
We don't have big sponsors.
Yep.
Most people don't have big
Most
sponsors.
people don't. I got a few good ones.
So, and you had to tear your motor completely down to the block, correct?
Everything. Let's see. I'll tell you. Both cams were
Right.
pulled out, measured. Bore and stroke was measured. Intake, exhaust valves were measured. Restrictor, and then a bunch of other small stuff, fuel, etc.
So I'll ask the question, what did that cost you?
Yeah, good
Round
question.
number, because I mean we're amateur racers.
Yeah, I think it's going to cost me. I was asking because again, I'm not a motor guy.
Right.
I'm a driver. I set up and
Right.
make sure everything's right. Right. I work in the quality field, so I like to make sure everything's right. Right. I'm being told it's going to be about $1,500 to get that all back together.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be more, but still, that's a lot.
It
of money.
might be more if I go to a mini place. I do actually have a mini dealership sponsor, but maybe I could work a deal with them to see if they can give it to me for cheap.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. It's all part of the game, unfortunately, and it's in many cases it's part of the game that it doesn't need to be there. There are some legit reasons to protest.
No doubt.
Question.
No doubt.
But this kind of just seemed like it was petty.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think protest. There's a reason why you have protests, but you don't protest just to protest, just to be kind of a pain, just to go see, if someone's right or wrong or whatever. That's not what it's for. It's when you know there's really something going on there, you go after it.
All right, so let's talk about something happier. We got to get you on the road. You got to get back up to the Northeast, where it's wicked wet today.
The wicked.
Sitting in front of you right there is our Veterans Challenge Award. We're giving out one every day, and that one's going home with you.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
You won our Veterans Challenge yesterday, national champion.
Awesome.
And what that qualifies you for, because all 4 of our winners, we're doing Veterans Challenge, we're doing Women on Track, an Under 25 award, and a Perseverance award. Winning that award from us, it's not an official SCCA award, this is an inside the SCCA award, qualifies you for the tall one in front of you, and that is the G-Dub Henderson 2022 Award of Excellence. Now, you have a little story about G-Dub.
Yeah, so my father, right? Father, longtime flagger, Stewart, and all that.
This is PG-13, right?
This one. It's actually
with G-Dub. It might.
It
not
can
be.
be. That's fair. That's fair. It's a very quick one, but I'll never. We used to go to Pocono. Again, I was a kid at the time, and my father's working turns, and he's got so many great stories there. One story is around Wietzenhoff throwing his helmet at him when he wrecked or something like that.
James Hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But one time he was telling me we were at the end of the day where he's like, I just got scared. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, man, I was with G-Dub going around the track in this Shelby Dodge Omni, and I think we're on 2 wheels sideways. And man, I've never driven so fast in a car. So I guess he used to throw that car around a lot, and he scared my dad, which is, I think, pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
And from that point on, honestly, I was like, man, I need to get one of those cars. They sound like they're cool.
I did a track lap with G-Dub, and he was in a van at Moroso. And I should have taken out life insurance before that lap.
Yeah, I guess he could really throw a car around. It's awesome.
He's a heck of a driver, and a good friend to a lot of people in this club.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And that's why we've chosen him as the title
awesome.
sponsor on the big trophy.
No, it's awesome.
And
this is awesome too, by the way.
And in addition to that, if you win the big one, Candelaria Systems is giving away one of their Sentinel streaming systems.
Oh wow!
The $25,000 value.
Wow.
$2,500.
$2,500. I'm sorry.
Still big money. Big
James
money.
Sell it,
Candelaria
get your
is at home
engine
this morning
rebuilt.
going, oh my God, what is he doing to me? Oh no, $2,500 value, streams up to the interwebs, and does all the track overlays and data acquisition, all that kind of stuff. So someone's going to take that home after the end of the weekend, and you are now eligible possibly for that.
No, that's awesome. I know that Kara got this. Was it 2 days ago?
Yes.
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty excited to have Hersey get that too, right? Being a veteran myself, I come from a veteran family,
Yeah,
right?
your dad was in the Air Force.
My dad did
called
20
him the
plus.
weather steward
Yep.
because he was a meteorologist in the Air Force, right?
20 plus years in the Air Force as an officer. My brother just retired from the Air Force as a colonel. I was in the Army, got out as an officer as well.
So you worked hard.
Yeah, right, exactly. Hey, the chair force, right?
Exactly.
I had to go around in tanks, M1A1 tanks, and do that stuff. I mean, that's what that mini's like. It's like a tank. So, I really appreciate it. This is a nice honor.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank
Enjoy
you.
the drive.
Thank you. I
Back home.
appreciate it, guys.
We'll
Congratulations.
see you again next year, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Got to defend, right?
Got to defend. The
All right.
season starts today.
B-Spec, national champion, Stephen
Stephen
Trone.
Trone.
We come back, we're going to talk about women on track. That's next here on Inside the SCCA. Stay with us. Decades of sports car racing success comes from Goodyear Racing Tires' dedication to grassroots motorsports. Too many trophies and championships to count, and a commitment to continuing that tradition fuels continued tire development. From the professional levels of motorsports to the pinnacle of amateur racing in the SCCA, Goodyear racing tires are made for winning trophies. Follow @RaceGoodyear on Facebook or scan the QR code. Goodyear Racing is more driven.
Sentinel by Candle Area Racing Products is a comprehensive motorsports video system, incorporating live streaming, local recording, picture-in-picture, flag status, leaderboards, data overlays, and more. Perfect for endurance racing, sprint racing, and HPDE, Sentinel includes everything you need to get started. With the ability to control the live feed from the cloud, and GPS Auto Start will never miss an on-track moment. What are you waiting for? Get your Sentinel today.
And we're back inside the SCCA live here from Virginia International Raceway. It's brought to you by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. And we are really pleased to bring on someone here who is really exemplifies what we do here in the club. Sydney Davis-Yeagle is here, and welcome.
Thank you.
It's bright and early.
It is very early.
And I'm sorry. But you're a worker, so you were going to be here anyway, right?
Car's on course in 40 minutes.
True. Yes, I probably would have been waking up about 10 minutes ago, but I woke up like an hour
20 minutes ago.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are part of one of the groups in the club that I am most proud to be aligned with, and we've had a bunch of your folks on for a full podcast earlier. If you haven't listened to the podcast on Women on Track, please do so. It was a really great conversation. But we're here. Tell us real quick what Women on Track does and why you guys decided to get together and do this.
So Women on Track is just kind of a community of women supporting women, men supporting women, being a part of the club in all facets, whether it's volunteering, whether it's driving, and all of the different program areas that SCCA has, and just kind of building women up and giving them the confidence to think that they can do what everybody else does.
And how long has the group been in business? Approximately.
That's a good Linda Feldman question.
It's been a couple of years though,
yeah,
right?
It has.
Yeah.
It has. I've been involved the last 2 years pretty heavily. I worked with SCCA, and I still work with SCCA. So I've been the staff liaison for the last couple of years, and we've really kind of gained some momentum and set up some structure to help get folks involved and get folks knowing that women are a part of the SCCA and they do amazing things.
And I got to be honest with you, folks. Women are the backbone in many cases in most regions of the SCCA, and I think it has to do with, unfortunately, the gender roles, because the guys were driving race cars and someone had to run the races, and women just picked up those roles and never got applauded for it as much as they should have. So now we're doing that.
Yeah. No, I grew up in a racing family, and I was asked to be, and if James is watching, James Rogerson got me involved in the Houston region back when I lived in Texas, and he was like, "Hey, can you do the paperwork for the race chair role?"
Right.
And I was like, "Okay, sure." Well, I didn't realize the paperwork was like everything. Well, whatever.
That is the race chair role.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I said I'd only do it as long as I could keep racing. And he's like, yeah, that's no problem. And it was, I mean, I could do both, but like there'd be times where I'd disappear, and I have to race in 30 minutes, so like then I'd disappear from
Right.
that role. So I think like you said, women oftentimes are behind the scenes, registrars. A lot of the work is done not at the racetrack.
Exactly.
It's done before you
Before.
get there.
Yeah.
And
Most people don't realize it. I mean, the planning for a single race starts months ahead of time.
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. So scholarships are a big part of what Women on Track does. Can you fill us in a little bit on how those work and how you guys reach out and find people for them?
So Women on Track started kind of, I don't know the right phrasing, but there was a solo scholarship,
Okay.
the Wendy Allen Memorial. I always get the phrasing wrong.
But, yeah.
So that was kind of our jumping off point was, hey, this exists in the solo community.
Sure.
How can we spread that idea on to road racing, to rallycross, to volunteers, to road rally? And so this year, that's what we've worked on, putting some structures in place so that we can give away those scholarships. We've given away one driver scholarship in the road racing community, Amanda took advantage of it in August at Pit Race. And a big shout out to Dennehy Rodriguez from the SCCA staff, who donated his car so that she could take the school, which was really cool. We had 2 ladies, and their names are escaping me at the moment,
It's okay.
that received the Road Rally Scholarship, or I'm sorry, the Rallycross Scholarship. And so last weekend they went up to Pikes Peak and had a blast. And
That's awesome.
so, and then this weekend, one of the Workers of the Year, Vanessa,
Okay.
who,
Yeah.
That's
um,
right.
yes, she was the recipient of the scholarship. This is her first runoffs, so
Nice.
it was fun to see her on grid with her sister, and who I've worked with for several years now. So
And we've got the Women on Track award that we're giving this weekend. We gave our first one to Cameron Reed. She was raced on Friday. We have someone that we're going to give it to for yesterday, which we are going to determine this morning. And then we will determine after today's our third award winner. And I've just been so happy to be part of what you guys do and be just helping out with stuff. It's just a great group of people, and the initiative is great. And as the father of a youngster, who might not feel represented in motorsports, I just love what you guys do. So, and we'll continue to shout from the rooftops and talk about the folks that you guys help out, and we will continue to do that. Is there anything? Oh, if people want to help out, how do they do
How
that?
they do it.
So go to scca.com/womenontrack. That's our landing page. It gives you some information about the initiative and what we're doing. If you want to get involved, there's a contact us page. And even if you don't know what to do, you can always donate money to the SCCA Foundation and earmark it for the SCCA Women on Track.
Cool. And you can go to scca.com for that, or is there another different website?
scca.com/womenontrack.
Got it. Cool.
So
All right.
awesome.
Anything else?
No, I got the chance to work with Sydney earlier in the week during qualifying days. God knows they'd never let me up there on race days. But as always, and I've known Sydney for a number of years, having worked on the Super Tour and worked with her down at NOLA and a lot of other places. As always, great to see, and thank you for everything that you do across not only the amateur racing portion, but also the pro racing as well.
Thank you. It's
All right.
been fun.
It has been fun, and we appreciate you getting up early and wiping the sleep out of your eyes. And
We have coffee.
come out. And there's coffee in the back if you'd like some, so that's awesome. All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we've got to go through all of what's going to happen today. We'll talk to you a little bit about our national champions, and we will all do that next on Inside the SCCA, brought to you by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Vintage Racers for Rescues. Racers rescuing dogs and cats from high-kill rural shelters and high-risk situations. Virginia and North Carolina have the third highest euthanasia rate in the U.S., and Vintage Racers for Rescues founders Robin and Dave Handy decided to do something about it. Vintage Racers for Rescues is a 501c3 charity that saves between 300 and 400 animals every year, nursing them back to health, finding foster homes, and eventually forever homes. VintageRacersForRescues.com. Use the QR code to find them on the web or to make a donation.
Grass Paddock Motorsport provides Mini Cooper race car rentals, trackside support, and coaching at tracks all over the eastern half of the country. GPM provides podium-capable rentals for B-Spec, the fastest-growing class of racing in the SCCA, for 3 years running, and now the fourth largest class overall. We have a unique approach where our cars are located near the track you want to race instead of being in a central location with large towing fees. Come join us at Grass Paddock Motorsports, where Grass Paddock is an attitude and not a location. Mention this ad for a 10% discount and find us at www.grasspaddock.com.
Racing for Heroes is proud to be a partner of Inside the SCCA. RFH is a nonprofit devoted to helping veterans suffering from the seen and unseen wounds of war through racing and our range of programs. RFH's programs include health and wellness, motorsports therapy, community outreach, education, and employment. Visit racingforheroes.org to learn more and find out how you can help. Cruise Associates is honored to have sponsored this message. And we're back live at Virginia International Raceway. I am Brian Bielanski. This guy next to me is Gregg Ginsberg. He's the guy, the know-it-all guy.
I'm the know-nothing.
You're the know-it-all guy. Yes, you are. This guy has been following this all of the Super Tours and the runoffs for many, many years. A vast wasteland. I mean, a vast amount of
a thumbtack of knowledge.
a
Yes.
vast amount of knowledge stuffed between his two ears, and
I thought there was nothing but air between my two ears. All right.
well, what I say on
Brian's back. Brian Donati's back here and agreeing with everything I say, and he's waving off everything you say.
So it's what I say on camera and what I say to his face when he's not on camera are two different things. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
It's been a great 3 days here,
It has.
and I'm looking forward to wrapping it up here and getting a little bit further down the road with all of this. But what we need to do now is, we have stuff going on here, and it's some big stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Here is what's ahead for today. Of course, if you're here with us with your cup of coffee and maybe a box of Krispy Kremes or maybe a good old bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit or something.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Sunday's schedule is packed full. Not as much as yesterday. We got 2 less races today. So Super Touring Light is our first race of the day. American Sedan F Production. That should be a great race today. I'm looking forward to that one. GT2. That's got some high-end race cars.
I'm looking forward to this morning segment, and I think this may upset a lot of racers, but I think this grouping here this morning is probably the best 4 races in a row that we've seen all weekend.
Could be. Then we get to the afternoon Formula Continental GT3, Formula Enterprises 2. That's going to be another exciting race.
That's going to be a very exciting
looking
race.
Forward to that one. And then Prototype 2. And, of course, we're going to wrap it up with the exclamation point on the week with our post-race show, Runoffs After Dark. That's going to come up whenever racing ends today. We're going to pop up live and talk to you for however long we talk to you. So, all right, let's get right to today's action. Let's see. Which one is it here? That would be this
STL.
one. STL.
Yeah, Danny Stain.
And I spelled his name right.
Yeah, yes. This time we did spell his name right. Danny looking for a little bit of redemption after yesterday's race in Spec Miata. He was your pole sitter, and we talked about this yesterday. I think coming right into our lunch break, because it was the last race before lunch yesterday. A lot of drivers finding a lot of adversity over the course of that race as it went to from dry to wet to dry to wet to mayhem.
Right.
And so Stain starting on the pole with he is your 3-time national champion in the class. He's your reigning national champion in the class. He took the win last year at Indianapolis in the wet, which I think he was really considered to be the dark horse with some of the front-wheel drive and very strong front-wheel drive.
Sure.
Drive racers like Joe Moser, who's going to be starting next to him on to his left on the front row today,
right.
In his King Motorsports, and I might say also Danny in his Ocean Machinery OPM Autosport Mazda MX-5. Joe Moser in the King Motorsports Honda CRX. He was your national champion in the class back in 2020, the last year that we were at Road America, and having raced against, I don't want to say I've raced against Joe. I've watched Joe race while I was on track.
You've watched Joe fly past you for the 3rd time in the same race?
He's never lapped me, but
okay.
He was in the mirrors.
Right.
But Joe, I think in a front-wheel drive car, if it were to be damp, I think he'd definitely have a chance. Here in 2019, Danny Stain won a national championship. It was his 2nd national championship in a row at that point, and he talked about putting in hero laps to open up the race.
Sure.
And he opened up about a 15-car advantage by lap 2, and he really never looked back. I'm sure he's looking to repeat that and use that same strategy here, but I don't think he can count out Greg Malloy, who seems also in a Honda CRX in the Function Informed Carbotech car, who all year long has been very, very close to the front of the pack, usually on the podium, and his driving has truly advanced, I think, over the last 4 years or so that I've been watching him drive that car. Trevor DeGianni in his Acura Integra, he's out of the Atlanta region. It's a chassis that he has been racing in one form or another now for about 15 years. It's Solt Ferenczi's Acura Integra that started off as an ITS car. They've done endurance races, they've done sprint races, they've done it in ITS, they've done it in STL. He is not a dark horse. I think he really has a legitimate chance. He may not have the straight line speed of a Stain or a Moser, but I think he has a legitimate chance. And Max Guy, our 2017 STU national champion, same chassis in his Honda Prelude, different motor, smaller displacement motor, but also I think has a very strong chance here. And I'll tell you, starting a little bit further back in the field, not to lay out. We also have a Perseverance Award, but Mike Taylor driving the number 39, just track it. Now I have to say Honda, or probably Acura Integra, because he's been driving a Honda Civic Coupe for so many years, as seems to be the case on an annual basis when he gets to the runoffs. Mike Taylor, a lot of adversity.
Right.
And he is starting 11th. He really did not have a chance after swapping out motors, after having half shaft and axle issues. Really didn't have a great opportunity to put in a strong qualifying session, but I would look for him. That car is always fast, and he is a very good wheelman.
Right.
So we'll have to watch him. He's starting 11th.
Two things you mentioned here during this rundown of guys. You mentioned two prep shops. You mentioned OPM Motorsports out of Atlanta, and you mentioned
King Motorsports.
King Motorsports out of just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Right.
And these are groups who've been involved in the SCCA for literally decades. King Motorsports helped my dad with a car back in the early 90s. We were building a Honda CRX. OPM helped me build a Honda Civic when I was in Atlanta.
Tom Fowler and OPM helped me when I was originally putting together my first CRX.
So there's a lot of people behind the scenes at these races that you never see, and you often only hear them mention a sponsor name. We often think of the prep shops as for like the FE2s and the Spec Racer Fords and the Miatas, the big spec classes, but there's a whole lot of people out there doing it for all the other classes as well, and I just always find that to be really, really interesting. So, all right, let's go on right now to a sedan. This is our kind of, well, a sedan is Mustangs, Camaros, and Firebirds, essentially.
And let's throw in now Dodge Challengers and the ever-present Cadillac CTS-Vs.
Okay,
as they are in there as well. And Kurt Resitano in another huge prep shop, Phoenix Performance, and they've had a lot of success already this weekend. Resitano in his Ford Mustang GT was our pole sitter by all of 1,500, about 25 hundredths of a second. No, actually, take that back, 15 hundredths of a second. Gregg Eaton, who took the win here back in 2019, going to be starting to his left in the Eaton Racing and Development Ford Mustang. Eaton, a multi-time national champion as well. And Dan Richardson in the Hoosier Auto Gear Hayworth Chevy Camaro seems to always be the bridesmaid. Not the bridesmaid. He hasn't finished on the second step or the top step of the podium.
Right.
He was very strong during practice this week. He was very strong coming into the second day of qualifying. He was your provisional pole sitter. He's had a couple of issues with the car. He's had some electrical issues that have caused pause in a class, I might add, that is known for its attrition.
Right.
These are races where in many cases, the last man standing literally is the man standing or woman standing on the top of the podium with that medal around their neck. Clark Camburn, who has been running in Spec Miata for the past number of years, he has now broken out the Bilstein Dodge Wesley Motorsports Dodge Challenger.
Right.
And that car has been very, very strong. He's going to start on the outside of row number 2. We haven't seen how that car handles over the long run in competition, but it should not be discounted. And I think a couple folks that also should not be discounted. James Jost, national champion out of North Ringgold, Pennsylvania, in the Jost Iron Works Ford Mustang. He is qualified 5th. And not to knock Thomas West, but I jump back over to 7th position, the man that you can never discount, that you can never count out, and that is Andy McDermott. Andy in the WeatherTech Felice Performance Ford Mustang, another multi-time national champion in his own right.
This is a class that kind of it's weird to me, only because these are cars where they're everywhere, and there are places where you can buy go fast parts for these Mustangs and these Camaros really relatively inexpensively. I would think this would be 50 cars every race weekend in these classes, and I'm always surprised why there aren't more. I mean, Mustangs are everywhere.
Sure.
Every high school kid in America has a Mustang or a Camaro. And or at least when I was young, which means there's a bunch in junkyards and there's a bunch used that are out there to be bought. And I've always been just kind of surprised that this hasn't been a more popular class in the club. A ton of fun, and it's relatively inexpensive to go racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we still have a fairly good sized field here this weekend, and I think it's down a little bit from past years. But I think part of that also, and why we're starting to see maybe some new chassis in the club. One of the things that you find is, and we see this in some of the other production-based car classes, is the performance levels of newer cars off the showroom floors have escalated so far over the last 10, 15 years that perhaps the newer Mustangs, the newest Camaros,
Right.
Unless you go to the non-8-cylinder models,
Right.
you're finding that the performance envelopes are much higher than perhaps the cars that have been classed and have been running in this class for so many years. And you cannot displace and you can't disenfranchise those drivers and those chassis that are already in the class. And so the fact that we have a Dodge Challenger in this class, I think is very good. But even the Cadillacs that we talked about, those are the first generation CTSVs. They're not the latest one, and well, they're not making the CTS any longer. But there's a performance envelope for them to slip in. And as you said, yes, there are plenty of them that are in junkyards, or in they're available. They're available used, but also of late, frankly, the last 2 years, we have seen that used car market.
Well, that's true.
Explode.
Well, but it's not exploding for 1990s.
It's exploding for everything.
Yeah.
I can go back and not that you're going to find a Honda Civic and American sedan, but I look for early Honda Civics on Facebook Marketplace or on different places that were 4 years ago selling for $700, $800. They're now asking $3,000, and so that I think is part of the economics of the class as well.
All right, here's one I'm really.
Oh yes.
We're in a little cave here, actually a big cave. The club has really set us up in a nice location. So, but we're indoors. I've got a window out behind us here that you can't see. Maybe I'll turn a camera around this afternoon or something so you can see what our view is. But I get to spend a lot of my time sitting here at this table getting ready for the next show. And I haven't gotten a chance to watch much racing off the TV. There wasn't off the TV. But this is one here, F Production. I'm walking outside and I'm going to watch some of this race because this will be one of the most hotly contested races of the entire week.
So we talked to Jesse Prather earlier in the week after his E-Production win, and we said, there's a lot of cars in your class that you've built the motors for, you've prepped the cars, but he says no, that yes, there are some, but the class you need to watch is E-Production, and sitting up on the pole, looking for his third national championship. He was your winner here in 2019. Eric Prill in the Maxon's Fights, Jesse Prather Motorsports, Hoosier, Carbotech, Mazda Miata. That is a Jesse Prather powered machine. Ken Kennard, who has been racing in Miatas in F Production for many years, switched over, purchased a car with a lot of provenance. This is a car that Mark Carpenter took to 2 wins in the
stout car.
at Road America. It also is the car that was on the podium, finished 3rd at Indianapolis last year. Kennard driving the Hoosier, G-Lock, Jesse Prather Motorsports, OPM Autosports, Acura Integra. And
you know what they say? If you can't beat them, buy their car.
Buy their car, exactly. And so, I mean, it's interesting here as Jesse has fanned out from a lot where he got, I think, a lot of his early work were in Mazdas and Mazda RX-7s,
exactly.
Then Mazda Miatas, but he's gotten a lot of customers looking for Honda and Acura motors as well lately. And so Ken Kennard with a new JPM motor in that car, Cliff Ira. In the number 36 Ira Motorsports Honda Civic Del Sol.
Right. That's one you don't see very often.
No, it is not. And it is, I think, the fastest car in a straight line here with the fastest trap speeds. At least it had been during qualifying. It was very, very quick at Indianapolis last year. And the track got wet and the car did not perform, I think, as well as he wanted in the wet, but is definitely a car to have. As we've talked to a few other people that are racing in F Production, they think that perhaps the car has some advantages compared to some of its brethren, like the Honda Civics,
Right.
like the Acura Integras, that have very similar suspension systems to them, but it's got a shorter wheelbase.
Right.
It also has a double overhead cam motor that, for example, Ken Kennard's machine, which has essentially the same suspension system and
Right.
suspension setup, and they're more or less, those cars are beyond being cousins.
Right. They're like
the Del
kissing
Sol,
cousins.
yes, absolutely, and the Del Sol has some advantages that might put it in strong contention here this week. Charlie Campbell, starting in fourth, also in another Jesse Prather Motorsports machine. So back in 2019, I think probably the best race of 2019
Right.
was he and Eric Prill. They were more or less door to door for 13 out of the 15 laps, with Prill taking the win. But I definitely would not count Charlie Campbell out from having a very strong race. So let's take a look now at our next race, and
GT2, Andrew Aquilani's going to have a chance to win yet another national championship.
Yet another national championship, and this is another one where he had a very large advantage going into the final day of qualifying. He had, coming into that last day, a full second up on Daniel Bender. Danny Bender driving a true TA2 Chevy Camaro, but as we went to pole day, only 0.2 of a second separating the two cars. Tony Ave, who of course is known for GT1 cars here in SCCA racing, and a multi-time Trans Am champion. Third fastest, he's driving a Nissan 350Z here, and I believe it's his very first outing at the Runoffs in GT2. You can't count him out. And then we've got the two fall line cars of Mark Bowden. We've got Tim Kesman, both in 991 GT3 Cup cars, and then Hans Peter in his Phoenix, not PHOENIX, but the PHENIX label Hoosier 991 chassis GT3 Cup car. I think any one of them have a great chance to come home with the checkered flag, assuming the weather gets damp. Now, we've heard we may get a little more weather before racing is done here today. We don't know if that's going to come in the morning or if that's going to come in the afternoon.
Absolutely. Okay, so we got to get one thing in here before we head to break, and that is we're going to hear from the Twig. Three more times.
Now that I finally recovered from my loopiness on the simulator last night.
All right, so if you haven't watched it, this is fun. Here's the Twig. A Rolex 24 at Daytona winner, a two-time champion of the 12 Hours of Sebring, a member of the prestigious Road Racing Drivers Club, and the Twig. Today we find the Twig at Virginia International Raceway, driving an MX-5 Cup car. The Twig is driving Spark Virtual Racing's S600. The S600 is a full-on driver training simulator. Unlike entry-level sim systems, this rig moves across all 6 degrees of freedom, making it a truly full-motion system that provides maximum feedback from the car. At $80,000, it's the ultimate training tool, providing a seat-of-the-pants feel that's remarkably close to what you feel when you are at the track. Let's find out what kind of lap time the Twig can lay down at VIR.
So we are out here at Virginia International Raceway in a Global MX-5 car here on the Spark Virtual Racing Halo Motion Simulator here. Trying to go for a fast lap, and man, it's different, right? Driving this Spec Miata car, I can feel it really starting to understeer, move around a little bit more. You can feel the softness of this car, which is so much different than a lot of the cars that I'm used to driving, the stiffer aero platforms of modern GT3 cars. They don't slide around as much. They don't have the pendulum effect of a soft MX-5 car here. Alrighty, think about hog pen. Let's get that good run out of here. All that curve. Rolling down, flat, right at the compression. There we go. Car sliding. Woo, every inch of the road there. That was a pretty decent exit. Get ready for a fast lap here. So I need that late, aggressive brake into turn 1, looking for that 3 board. The 5th gear. Take a breath. Getting ready. Eyes are in. Boom, 3 board. There we go. Down to the apex point, back to full throttle, let the car be free out of here, go, 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 don't scrub speed. Thinking about turn 3, I want to be nice and light on the brakes to roll in speed. Nice and light. There we go. Get down to that apex point. Hey, what do you know? There we go. Use all the road. That was okay, not great. Into turn 4. Ooh, a little late on that turn-in point. Not great. That's going to cost me some lap time. All right, I need to be flat from here on out all the way to turn 10. Let's use this curve here to do a little release a little early on the turn-in point. Get it together, hands straight, and we're good. Whew. Take a breath into the S's here. You need to be inch perfect the first S so that everything else is just working out for me. There we go. That was a good one. Jump this curve. Keep that right foot on the floor. Right foot on the floor. Come on. Alrighty. Nice and light on the brakes. Roll speed into turn 10. There it goes. Float, float, float. Use every inch of the road. Nice. Braking just past the 2-board. Boom. Hard on the initial brake. There we go. Release enough. Roll speed. Roll speed. There we go. Back to flat the apex point. Get the run out of here onto the back straightaway. Could have used a little bit more speed through Oak Tree, but my exit was good, and that's my main priority here. Take a nice breath. Down the back straightaway. Big brake zone coming up. I need to make sure I hit that apex point in turn 14, but I need to make sure I'm maximizing my brake pressure too. Nice and late on the brakes. Looking for that aero board. Let's go. Wham! Hard on the brakes. Get the car slowed down. Can I hit it? No, too much speed, but I need to go, 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 go. Don't let it cost you. There we go. Alrighty, attack it through hog pen. Turn it in flat. Use this curve. Light on the brakes. Light on the brakes again. Car rotates. Boom, back to full throttle. Come on, car. Come on, car. Tell me I don't suck today with my lap time, please. And it's still not gonna be very fast. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Well, that's a little bit better.
2:12.91 around the good place. It's funny. I've seen some people posting online who are sim racers. Okay, now we've got something to go after. Let's go do it, and that's what we wanted.
And I've seen some sim racers who have been making their guesses on who the Twig is. And first off, it's not me. The guy's a little. Look at my arms. Look at his arms.
There was no question.
Yeah, there's not me.
No one was thinking it was you.
And I might also add, he's not wearing jorts. Okay, just I'm going to make things a little bit easier for the folks at home. No jean shorts on the Twig. Okay.
So what's really interesting though is I've had lots of people come up to me and say, "Is it so and so? Is it so and so? Is it so and so?" And I've not had to lie to anybody who's figured it out and say, "Oh no, it's not that person." So that's really what's been interesting is that the credentials we put up there are kind of telling.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to do some Googling, you might be able to figure it out.
And he's got the visor up, folks. Look closely, zoom in.
Yeah, well, I worked really hard to make sure that wasn't a giveaway.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we will tell you tonight. If you're really dying to know who the Twig is, tune into the evening show tonight because we are going to reveal who it is. Maybe I'll get a picture of him up here too. And
that would be good. So right after the last race this evening, definitely stay with us here as we wrap up everything from the runoffs.
And I got a story to tell you about that opening camera shot with the dark visor, and it's a fun story nonetheless. Okay, so we got still some stuff left to do before we get out. It's 7:48 here on the East Coast. We're going to get to racing here at 8:15 with our first race of the day. And one of the storylines of course, on Friday especially was the weather.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put this up right now. This is what it looks like right now. That's the radar. Looks completely dry. But the forecast said this morning 80% chance of rain. I don't know where it's coming from when I look at this. But I'm not a meteorologist, and I don't even play one on television.
No.
So it looks dry to me, but we'll see what happens. But if it does happen, we've seen that a lot of drivers are ready for it.
Absolutely. I mean, we have drivers. They have been prepping for this all week, and of course, everybody here knows we've got an umbrella, so everything will be fine.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. All right, so real quick, let's look at this here. These are the people we need to congratulate. These are our national champions from Friday. Sven de Vries, he is our Formula 500 national champion.
2 times running, 2 times in a row.
Andrew Aquilante, who is going to have a chance to get another one today, 1 T1 on Friday.
Yep. And looking for a GT2 later today, as we discussed, or later this morning.
Jonathan Kotek won in Formula 4. That was a fun race to watch.
Always, I'm always amazed because as you know, we talked to Cameron Reed early in the week, but Formula F always with young up and coming racers, and the one thing that you see in that class typically no fear,
Exactly.
no quarter, and some of the some of the most amazing moves that those of us that have a death wish would never never ever think of trying to pull off.
Or those of us who don't have a death wish.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, exactly.
GT1 Tom Herb for the second year in a row, making great calls in the rain. Last year it was a call to change tires on the first lap in the in a race that was turning wet. This year, the choice was to run a GT3, an FIA GT3 car that would do much better in the wet than all the other cars in the class. So great for him. Jesse Prather, now a 6-time national champion, 3 wins in a row in his BMW Z3, and really not only humble, but we talked to Steve Introne earlier, and he said how he had been preparing for this weekend with his car for at least the last month. It was such an insight into not only a driver but a car preparer's mindset and methodology in everything that Jesse Prather said that he had done over the years in order to prepare for a single race in the rain.
Well, and he also talked about how he prepared.
Yes.
And how he exchanges the brakes and not just the tires to reins and all this kind of stuff. And these are people who, while we're considered the pinnacle of amateur motorsports, these are professionals doing this. They and in so much as that they act and they prepare in a professional manner.
Right.
And it's always really remarkable to see all of that. All right. Spec Racer Ford, Frank Futrell.
His second national championship, his first in Spec Racer Ford Gen 3, strongest driver all week. Not much I could say. He was able to check out early in this race and ran a flawless 15 laps in Spec Racer Ford Gen 3.
That's right. There always seems to be one race out there that has kind of like a problem and it becomes really short or there's some drama involved in it. STU so far.
That was the one.
I'm hoping we got it out of the way, got it out of our system.
Yeah, back here in 2019, it was GT1.
Right.
This year, STU only 3 laps under green flag conditions, and the race was checkered early due to huge amounts of oil on track in the rain. Joe Moser wins another national championship, and I guess the other story there, Mark Lillard, just before the full course cautions come out, he was in the lead, spun in the oil, fell back to 5th. Chip Herr, who started 19th in the field, finishing on the second step of the podium.
Yeah, and there's talk about how the yellow flag could have come out sooner with the oil and he wouldn't have spun. The problem is, as a corner worker, you really don't realize there's anything on the track until that first person comes through and goes off the track.
And the second and the third.
Right, so it's not as easy to see oil, especially depending on where the flag station is compared to the track.
Right.
Some might be really obvious. Others, it's just where you're standing, you can't just see that sheen of oil on the track like you might be in other positions.
Well, and given the weather conditions and how hard it was raining and everything else that was happening, certainly difficult to see.
Yeah. So, that's how that worked out. Then we go on to T3, Jason Ott. This was the class that had to come out in the
after the oil cleanup, and without a doubt, the worst weather conditions, 35 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, the rain absolutely pouring down. I think we were talking to, I forgot who we were talking to yesterday. They basically said if it wasn't one of the touring car classes, the race likely would have been put off till the next day. Certainly if it was one of the Formula cars. Jason Ott getting his first national championship after 21 tries. His brother Steve finishing right behind him in second, and then Marshall Mast, who was our reigning national champion, finishing in third.
Absolutely, and definitely, one of the worst race conditions I think I've ever seen our club or any other series race in.
Oh yeah.
We pride ourselves in racing through a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And we always joke when we see other series stop their racing for rain.
Yeah.
And here in the SCCA, most of the time we race through what's there unless there's lightning.
Yeah.
And that's just a safety factor, not for the drivers, but for the people who are standing out in the rain helping us do things. But, I'll be honest, I was one of those people that questioned why we were going back to racing on Friday.
Sure.
And then I saw the race and I realized, we got some really talented people.
Amazing drivers, yeah.
And I don't think that at all that was a bad decision.
No.
to go back. Now that I've watched the race, I don't know that the people in T3 would agree with me.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, what a great display of it was just really, really amazing driving all
Sure.
day on Saturday. It wasn't just this class; everybody was dealing with changing conditions and just lots and lots of water.
Yeah,
Lots of water.
yeah, exactly. And speaking of which, yesterday morning we started off with Formula X. This is a race that was supposed to end the day
Right.
on Friday, but it was because of those conditions and also because of how late in the day we finished up with Touring 3 was moved to yesterday morning. Trevor Russell. He put the car off early.
Yep.
Actually, not so early. He put the car off lap 9. Still managed to win by over a half a minute
Right.
over the rest of the field, as everybody was dealing with yesterday morning. It was still a little bit of a drizzle, but I think for the making the tire choices
Right.
and the condition of the track, because there was not as much water on the track, maybe a little bit more of a sheen, a much more difficult racetrack for those Formula X drivers.
And we learned yesterday, we knew at the start of the day it was going to be less problematic because it was a pretty obvious choice at the start of the day to go with either an intermediate or a wet tire.
Sure.
And then as the day moved on, we're like, well, this becomes easier because it's going to be a dry tire. Well, it turns out that there were a lot of races that looked like dry tire was the absolute right decision. And then halfway through the race, it would be wet. And maybe wet in just one portion of the racetrack.
Right.
And they dealt with that in almost every class from like maybe noon on yesterday.
Yeah.
And I thought that was another little layer of the onion that we had to deal with.
Sure, and
throughout
I
the
think a great example of this actually was our second race of the day, Touring 4, where Marshall Mast, he took the win over John Heinrichsey. It was a track that went from very damp in Formula X
Right.
to starting to dry out, and the big difference there is Marshall Mast, having come off not repeating his national champion in T3 the day before, started to really attack the track in his machine, in his Ford Mustang, or probably not in his Ford Mustang, but in his twin, and Heinrichsey didn't show the same type of aggression. Maybe he played a more cautious race, and Mast able to pick up the national championship there.
Let's move on. GT Lights, Peter Shadowin.
Yeah, and Peter Shadowin in the in running on intermediate tires in a rear-wheel drive Honda CRX. You don't
Right.
say that often. He also opened up and really took a commanding win here, but this was probably because the race of the day in GT Light was the battle for second, where right out of the gate, right from the green flag, we had Brian Lynn in his Nissan SER, and we had Jonathan Goodale in his Mazda MX-5, pardon me, door to door, side by side, switching positions. Goodale, we thought, had run his wet tires down to nothing about 2/3 of the way through the race. He backed out for a lap or two and was able to take it back to Lynn. Had actually gotten around Lynn with 3 laps to go. Lynn was able to, still had some better tires, and I think a little more well-balanced car, was able to take advantage coming out of Oak Tree, get him down on the back straight. Lynn takes the second position. Goodale takes the third. But again, another commanding win by Shadowin.
Well, and let's give some props to Brian Lynn. He's a West Coast guy.
Sure.
Races with us at Cal Club all the time. We don't get a lot of rain out there.
No.
We don't get changing conditions very often. Maybe we get a lot of dust on our racetracks, but to come out here and deal with those conditions like everyone else was and come in second place is just a testament to the level of skill that drivers from all around the country are bringing here to VIR this weekend. Formula V, Brian Farnham, he good first name.
Yes.
Gotta love that. Spells it properly.
Yes, he does.
And more importantly than any of that, he's a national champion.
Yeah, he is. He finished second last year at Indianapolis, looking for a little redemption. And this is a race where at the time, our leader, completing lap number 1. This is Andrew Whitston. He was our reigning national champion coming into the race. Went off over at Hog Pen, like so many racers have done over the last few days, and Farnham jumped to the lead. Now, I think probably the biggest story here was actually Andrew Whitston, who fell all the way back to 25th position in Formula V, managed to work his way back up to 5th by the end of this race. And but again, a great run from Brian Farnham. Took advantage of what was given to him, and the fact that he had a shock break, a front shock go down, not just go down, but literally snap
Broke.
on him about halfway through the race, and he was able to manage the car and bring it home. And then, knowing they had the broken shock, he had no compunction about going out for a victory lap
Exactly.
in the car.
And if you go back and watch the video, and by the way, if you've missed any of Friday or Saturday's action, you can go back right now. No, you can
Not
go,
right now.
No, wait until like 7 o'clock tonight, because we want you to watch all of today's stuff live. Come back and watch us at lunch. But you can go back and watch the entire. They've got the entire long day stuff, and then eventually they're going to chop them up into individual races.
pieces,
So if you want to watch your buddy do its thing, you can do that. And we'll be able to do that. So we're getting to our live broadcast here. So we're gonna dump out here, so you can go watch the live racing action here. We do want to do real quick. We want to thank the good people over at Shirts 101 and for helping us out with our shirts. If you're here on track, you can get the runoff swag down at the tent right outside the Pagoda Grill. If you want to buy stuff from home, if you didn't get to VIR, go to SCCAgear.com. If you want to get your own shirts, go to email Rick at shirts101.com. They will take good care of you. I'm Brian Bielanski. He's Gregg Ginsberg. Let's go racing.